what percentage of your customers like actually use the thing to the degree they should? And you don't have to give me the number. I'm not trying to put you on the spot. My point was just more of like,
round up, Dan, round up.
Yeah.
Make me feel better.
You talk about it privately. We talk about it publicly. This is the Real Estate Insiders Unfiltered podcast. Welcome again to the Real Estate Insiders Unfiltered podcast. I'm your host, Wiggy, along with my co-host, Keith, and I have been just laughing nonstop today. I don't know if we drank the same water or something, but
the green room was lit today.
So we had Dan Foody, the CEO and co-founder of Cloze, which is a big CRM software provider in residential real estate, but different. Was really an interesting conversation, and I'll let Keith give you the background, but went a very different track that we even thought it was going to go down. So
it's a good pod when we basically throw out 80% of the questions we wrote down.
Literally.
And we just end up going deep down a rabbit hole with our guest and a domain expert. We talked about the communication problem with agents and their past clients. He gave us very detailed and data-driven conversation around that, like why it doesn't happen, how you can fix it. I'd never heard anyone with that much data behind it. He talked about this concept of identifying what's important to the person, and in that moment, how to communicate with them. That's the real power of the CRM of the future. This access to data around the human being, but in a way that you can communicate with them about what's important to them, not what's important to the calendar or to you. I really loved that part of the conversation. We discussed whether the agent will be pushed out of the transaction with all the end-to-end companies trying to get into the space. I really would sum this up as we had a 45-minute conversation with a brilliant technologist with a huge heart. And you don't always see those two things together. And you are going to dig this one. Put it in your ears, kids.
Dan, welcome to the show.
Yeah.
The humor and the color of Keith's and Dan's face is due to the stupid shit we say in the green room all the time before we start.
Giggling in the green room. That is true.
So we're excited to have you here for a lot of reasons. But we're going to talk about a little about your company and the product that you've put together, which is widely used in the industry. I think I was kind of thinking about how I wanted to open this, and we had a guest on who said that the average agent makes 1.2 phone calls for a lead that gets distributed. And we were just, I think it's relevant because we're going to talk about CRM and follow up and things today.
That seems high.
Okay. Well, there it is. Which we're laughing is really not funny, actually.
It makes me want to throw my laptop in the freeway and just watch people run over it. That's how it makes me feel inside. Yeah.
So I guess let's start here, and we'll go down this rabbit hole of touch points and things as we go. But I know you launched your company in 2012, but you have a master's in electrical engineering at Cornell.
Whoa, slacker!
And I just have to ask, what are you doing in residential real estate?
You have two masters degrees.
No, I got masters, and I got my bachelor's and master's in 4 years. So.
Okay, I'm intimidated now. Just to be honest.
Look at Dan with the humble flex, right out of the gate. I like it. Let him know, Dan. Go ahead. Yeah.
So I did not. My background is all in enterprise software primarily. So I spent dozens of years working on really high end things like customers like Standard & Poor's, Lockheed Martin. Spent a bunch of time with customers that did things like reservation systems for hotels and airlines. Interestingly enough, that was right about the time there was this pesky guy named Rich Barton.
Who was heard of him?
That industry.
Yeah. The travel agent industry.
Rich Barton, to be clear, co-founder of Zillow, just for context, just everybody knows.
Yeah, and the what was the travel agents one?
Expedia,
right?
Yeah.
I actually formed with Microsoft before that too. Even further back, but yeah.
But so all my career was in large scale enterprise software, and then I think it was around obviously around 2012, 2010 ish. Wanted to get closer to actually have software for people. Not like in the enterprise, you never talk to actual customers. It's all 6 layers of IT and things like that. And so I was interested in that, but when we started Cloze, we had no residential real estate, I had no idea about. That wasn't anything we were thinking about. My co-founder and I, Alex, we started really just from problems that we had, which was we weren't really in sales roles, but we had these relationships with partners and customers that needed to manage over years and years.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was, how do you manage and maintain a relationship over years? And that was kind of what got us started on doing that, figuring that out. But it wasn't real estate specific. So we actually started on the App Store and Play Store too. So we're started as a mobile app company. So we had customers that were like lawyers, consultants, architects, executive recruiters, executive coaches, financial planners, all the sort of walks of life of people who deal with long-term relationships. And so that's kind of how we got started into it. And then about 2019, we had a brokerage owner who reached out to us. He'd found us on the App Store and said, guys, you have no idea how perfect what you're doing is for real estate. And so we said, all right, we'll listen. So we sat down with him, learned more, and realized it was actually a really good fit because we didn't know anything about the industry back then. And, we added features and capabilities to be specific for it. And now it's something like 80% of our revenue.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
What a shift.
Yeah.
That's a big move. So you started with lawyers. I hate saying that word. You started with lawyers and then you moved.
Started with all sorts. So the most interesting segment was priests, ministers, and rabbis used our software a lot too.
Wait, what?
For what? This sounds like a setup for a joke.
I mean, I was thinking like lawyers,
Yeah.
you could have like ambulance
Donation
databases and things, but like what are priests and...
It was donation management.
Interesting.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
And so the funniest one was there's a synagogue that they use Salesforce for their regular customers, and they use Cloze for their really important customers for the fundraising side.
Interesting.
We should do a pod on. Never mind. No, we shouldn't. But that's very interesting.
I want to know where you're going.
Yeah. I just edited. I had a question. So. I always ask people who come from outside the industry because I find it very interesting. I feel like you never get a second chance to see something for the first time, right? And so you have these preconceived notions about what working in air quotes residential real estate industry would be like. How is it the same, or how is it different from what you thought it would be as an outsider who sort of parachuted into this space, this crazy village that we call residential real estate?
I think the thing we really didn't know when we got into it was all the layers. So that you've got, brokerage owners who are afraid of their managers. You've got managers that are afraid of their agents and so on up that hierarchy. And so that was, I think, the biggest thing that we had no idea about, this sort of chain of people that you need to work with to get anything done in the industry.
Yeah, it's hard when the org chart's a circle, right?
And then it's got prongs that go like this, and it's like, where does this one go?
And, like, who do I talk
who's
to?
actually in charge? And,
who knows?
Right.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, that's accurate. All right, we're going to hit you with the rapid fire questions. We ask these of all of our guests. First one, selfishly for me, as I say almost every time. Favorite book or podcast this year ever? Why? What would you recommend I or we read or listen to?
This year, there was a good one called Sold a Story. I don't know if you heard it. So my wife's a teacher. And so this has nothing to do with AI, nothing to do with residential real estate.
That's okay. I like that.
So she's a teacher. This is a podcast about how a bunch of academics basically changed the way teachers were teaching to a way that doesn't work at all. So we have a whole generation of teachers who have no idea how to teach reading to kids properly. And we're just recovering from that now, barely. So anyone who has
it's like so children, relevant for the times in our country, like it could not be more relevant So we basically, our educational system is screwed, is what you're saying. It's just starting to like
specifically the reading part, which isn't very important at all.
Starting to understand it. But I think the part for me is that the math curriculums are like 20 years behind the reading ones. So they've started to realize that the way they taught reading didn't work. They're still like 20 years away from figuring out that the way they're teaching math doesn't work.
You mean the Common Core part?
It's partly that.
Yeah.
You know,
He's like, well,
Yeah.
you know,
I get
so
it.
my kids were taught my kids are in college now.
Yeah.
And they were taught all of these special
Different
math
versions.
programs that are really designed to help kids love math. And both of my kids thought they were horrible at math and they couldn't do it at all. Now, my son is mechanical engineer and my daughter's dual majoring in game design and computer science. Just put that in perspective.
we should start a podcast on the world, Keith, and see where that one goes. We keep talking about getting canceled. It'll probably take us, maybe 2 episodes?
You keep
most?
talking about getting canceled. I never say it, but yeah, it could happen. I definitely, if we did a world podcast. Oh, that's a good one. I'm going to listen to that. I find that interesting because you think by now we would have figured out learning modalities, right?
Well, what's happened is it's a division. There was a lot of good research on what works, but all of the people who taught teachers didn't like the research. And so they didn't believe or didn't want to read the research. And so they taught people what they thought worked well. And
that sounds like healthcare.
Oh, it is exactly like
on that one. Okay, James, save us before
I'm on it. Okay, so next question. If you could have lunch with one person, current or historical, who would it be and why?
You know, I think it would probably be Steve Jobs.
Good choice. Yeah.
Partly because I'd really love to learn his process, if you will, which is, you know, the balance that he did really well was this idea of not giving people what they want, but being there just at the right moment to give them what they need. And it's hard to be either, you know, too far behind the curve or too far ahead of the curve. And so understanding more about the way he thought of and looked about that would be really interesting to me. I know it's like an Elon Musk job.
It's not been the same company since he passed on. Like it's missing something. And the guy got a horrible reputation for being an asshole and everything else. But I mean, you look at Apple, it's still a great firm, but it doesn't have the innovation and the vision that he was.
Especially that innovation is what's really interested me.
It's what's funny to me is there's this conversation all the time. I'm finding this part with Steve I've always wanted to actually talk about this. So you've got a guy who is so particular about every single detail of every aspect of a product, just maniacal and micromanagement and all of these things.
He cared about the inside of the computers. What did they look like?
Yeah.
Inside.
What do the wires inside look like?
What was the casing inside?
But it's funny because if you look at society today, we have this whole, don't be too involved and let your team make decisions, et cetera. And this is just it's a debate in business. But Steve was the opposite. It was like everything passed by his desk to the point you're making. And that company was different than it is today. I think they lost something because there wasn't that sort of just total detail about the color of the wire that was known for Apple. You paid twice as much money for a product that is likely inferior, but the look, the packaging, just all those things just it's not there anymore. So, it'd be a really fun conversation to ask him, like, what do you think of Apple today? And like what he would say. All right. Well,
probably swore a whole bunch of times.
Which makes for a good podcast. So that's fun. Yeah.
All right. So let's get into the first couple questions here. So we've got a couple. I'm going to kind of combine these. So you guys were out of residential real estate, which I find interesting, and then you moved into residential real estate. Now it's 80% of your revenue, as you mentioned. Yeah. So there's a lot of CRMs in the space. I think we can agree on that. There's quite a few, and there's a lot, but not a few that have large market share. So, talk to us about what you guys have built, and then why, like how you've differentiated yourself in the market. I'm really curious that path of outside coming in, and then how you've managed to grab the market share that you have.
To be fair, we kept as far away as we could from the word CRM for as long as we possibly could.
What'd you call yourself if it wasn't a CRM?
That's the problem. Is there's no mark, and so we eventually had to go. All right, we're CRM, because that's what people recognize.
Sure.
But everything we do is fundamentally different, and I'll walk you through a few interesting statistics, and just to sort of start this out. So, if the average agent in a typical real estate CRM has about, let's say they have 1,000 contacts, what percentage of those people do you think they've actually ever talked to? I don't mean like nurture spamming. I mean, actually had conversations.
Out of 1,000?
Yeah.
100.
It's about a third. So you're a little off.
I'm a little negative on the actual conversation. Yeah.
Right,
okay. So 300 out of, or
I let you answer first, Keith, intentionally.
Oh, because you were going to say 300?
I was going to say a lower number.
Oh, you were going to say lower?
James is going to have to answer the second question. Which is
all right.
So if they talk to 300 people that are in their database, what percentage of that is of the total people they talk to? Because we know they don't put everyone in their database, right?
What percentage of the 300?
Of their conversations. Yeah.
The 300 is what percent of the total audience they actually talk to?
I'd say a third. I don't know.
I would go lower. I'll take under.
All right. It's 12%.
Yeah, 12%. I win again. So hold on, just unpack that because math is hard. So
88% of the people they talk with never gets into their database.
Yeah. Okay.
And so, you think about like we talk about all these things, like you need to follow up with people and all that kind of stuff. Like, how can you if they're just not in your database to begin with?
Well, so, I have a question real quick on the roughly 300 people that they do speak with. What frequency was that? Just so I had context. Like, is that once ever or like
I don't
annually?
Gather that's at least in the last year.
Okay, so 12 months. Okay, that's fine. Yeah.
Why do you think that is? Like, what is it about human nature or agents or CRMs or technology? Like, why? Why?
I mean, so it's the 2/3 they are just like junk usually, right? That's just people that got in there, leads they never followed up with. It's just garbage that accumulated probably. But you think about agents tend to think transactionally on stuff, right? Like you're on the sideline of a soccer game for your kid. You don't go, oh, here's all the people I met on the sideline. Let me add them to my database just in case. Right. You go, maybe they'll fall. Maybe they'll come to me later on.
Right. And they'll know what I do because I've chatted with them. Yeah, I'll see them at the next
and they'll
game.
Magically come back to me at some point. Right. And so that's the fundamental problem with the CRMs in the space is 88% of the people agents actually need to work with never make it into the system to begin with. And so the way we started approaching this problem was, as I said, wasn't really a CRM approach. We started thinking about the problem of just a communication problem. How do you track literally everyone that someone has talked to ever? So how do you hook into all of their emails, their mobile phone, their iMessage, their WhatsApp, their Google Chat, to build a map of literally everyone that is in their extended network, including, like, you see interesting things, right? Like a lot of, I mentioned the soccer team. Soccer teams will often have a mailing list that has all the other parents on them. And so you can build a map of all of these relationships that an agent can reach if you start going through the communication instead of forcing the agent to do all the work with entering data themselves. And so that at our core, it's about taking data and mining it from communication histories.
How do you get the agent to agree? I'm just trying to think how they would want to ask this question. You're saying their phone calls, their the privacy. How do you get them over that hump of like, you're gonna look at their text message, you're gonna look at the phone number, all of that stuff? Like, is it a training issue?
There's a few pieces to it. So one is, like, we have customers in 86 countries or something. So, so we're GDPR compliant. So we have to obey really strict privacy rules.
Sure.
Worldwide. But I think the bigger question to that is who can see my information is really the other question to that. Yeah. And so the way we've built Cloze isn't like one big database that you put all of your agents in. Every agent is in their entirely separate database. And so they have 100% control over that. If they move brokerages, they can bring their database with them. They can bring their Cloze account with them, just attach it to their other brokerage.
Got it.
But it is, and part of the way we built it is no one can have access to their data, not our employees, not their brokerage, which is very different than a lot of the tools.
Yeah.
It's this reverse thing of, if the data you have in there is meaningless, you don't mind if people actually look at it. But the more valuable that data becomes, the more you want to control who can look at it. And so we have extremely high standards for who can ever get into that. And it's always the agent has full control. No one, the agent wants to share something, they can, but it's entirely up to them. No one can ever get in otherwise.
All right. So communication, you're basically saying we want to make sure that every aspect of your world, in other words, is brought into the system so that you're getting opportunity with everybody you're having some type of conversation with. And then I'm gonna summarize here, but they can then tag them into like friends and clients and blah 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 and organize them.
So that's the next level of the problem, right? Which is, so if you're going from 1,000 to 8,000 or 5,000 or whatever it is, that's like way too many people for an agent to want to organize. And that's where we use AI to start suggesting things to the agent. So the agent doesn't have to organize and tag and do all that work. We'll bring people up to them and say, you should reach out to this person or things like that.
Go deeper on that. So before we go
to that piece, before we go to the AI and identification piece, just to double click on like exactly how so do you mean like an email will come in and the not CRM that we have to call CRM because there's not a better word for it, says, oh man, I see you're emailing with James. You guys have known each other since 2007, right? Like, is that what it's doing? Like, he's not in here now. Would you like to add James? Or help me understand how it's like really ingesting what I'm doing and turning that into actionable clients.
So step back from there, which is there's a point in time where an agent says, I want to add them to my database.
Yeah.
And what we do is we keep a shadow view of people long before that ever happens. So we have a perspective on here is the contact, if you will, for that person.
Right.
And we built all of that and we have all that data ready. So the moment they say, oh, this person's ready to do business, all that information's already there. All of your past history, all your past communication, everything's ready.
Okay. All right. So you're sort of, I make it sound creepy and I don't mean to, in the least creepy way, most brilliant way possible. You're lurking in the background, compiling information on who I'm talking to.
Working on behalf of the agent.
That's what I meant to say.
But it's the same shit Google's doing now anyway.
I'm not mad at it.
I didn't mean it that way. I just meant this isn't actually a new thing. Everyone's like, oh my God. And I'm like, Google's been doing that for like 5 years. Relax.
And I think the difference is Google does that to sell you ads.
Right. You do it to help them sell houses. Right. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So that's super helpful. Now to transition to what I think James's next question was, how does that whole, like, how are you identifying you should reach out to this person today? Unpack that. How does that work?
So there's a lot of different parts to it. If you think about relationships over time, relationships wax and wane over time.
Boy, do they. Oh, never. I mean, not mine. But
this is not
anyway,
talking
continue.
About marriage, Keith.
Yeah, take it easy.
But you can actually determine from the data the pattern of how those relationships are changing over time.
Oh, you're selling the wrong thing, Dan. Yeah.
We've had people try and use Cloze to manage their personal relationship. I don't want to know more about that. But we have had people do that. But it's, so the AI is building a pattern analysis of your past history of this relationship. And you think about like a relationship, if you work really heavy with someone for 6 months, 9 months, 12 years ago, they'll remember you no matter, even if you don't talk for them 10 years, they'll remember who you are. But if this is the last time we ever meet, like 5 years from now, you go, Dan, who with the weird last name?
Yeah.
And so you have to think about relationships build up strength over time and it gradually wanes. And so there's a whole algorithm behind that, but we use a lot of the data to try and surface things. And there's a lot of other subtle keys that we use in there. Like we have AI that looks at the conversations and determines whether someone is a friend or family or if it's a work relationship. So you think about the way you talk with someone, your patois is different. I'll use that for Keith. He likes that.
What the, you dropping French on us? What's that? A Padawan? What'd you say,
All
Dan?
I heard was pate and I got hungry. So that was like, that's all I heard. Yeah.
The tone you use is different for friends.
Oh, for sure.
AI picks that up and can do that. And so there's all sorts of these tricks that go on in there. But
really
at some
fascinating.
level, there is just like driving agents to reach out to people as part of it too, right?
So, yeah. And making it comfortable, right? Like I've said this before, probably on the podcast, but I think agents, and we don't have to unpack why I've done it before, but I think agents are not great at starting conversations because they're rejection avoidant because of the high emotional IQ and all the stuff I've talked about before. So they're not great at starting conversations, but man, they are brilliant at having them.
Yeah.
Right. And so part of it is like when we put a suggestion up there, we actually have a suggested message to reach out to them.
Something to say.
But it's not like, what you find when you look at the actual data, if you send them like a newsletter, you get, let's say, conversion ratio of whatever.
Mm-hmm.
If you send them a note that says, hey, we haven't talked in a while, let's catch up.
Right.
That has 200 times better conversion than does a newsletter. It's like astoundingly better conversion.
Text only, no photos, no images, no links.
Like a personal empathetic sentence is huge. And so it's actually not hard. And the other thing for agents is the worst case is they don't get back to you, right? It's like, who cares? If they don't get back to you, big deal. It's not.
Yeah. I do think that's part of the core problem, though. Not to we don't have to devolve into this, but I think, look, I don't know, I have an Adidas shirt on today, right? And part of the reason for that is Nikes run narrow and I don't, right? So I don't wear Nikes, right? But Phil Knight doesn't care if I don't buy Nikes. His world isn't really changed much at all because he doesn't have any I'm not rejecting him, I'm rejecting his product. But in residential real estate, the human being is the product, right? And so when they reject an agent, it is a personal rejection. Like, I didn't pick you.
There's a difference between not getting back to you and saying, you smell funny, right?
Right.
Very different things.
Great point. Yeah.
And so the not getting back to you is not really that much of a rejection in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, that's fair.
I want to ask this because you got me really thinking about this sort of like this vision of, and I don't want to talk about this CRM because so let me back into this. Keith and I have been talking about for the longest time what we call the life cycle of homeownership, and we've been saying that for 8 years.
I mean, maybe more than that.
Longer, probably. I don't even know anymore. But everything is so top of funnel, and it's been this way for the longest time that we're now starting to have these really big conversations about long funnel, like the 8 to 13 years somebody owns a property. So this question is going to go multiple paths. One is I want to get your take on what Rocket and Zillow and ICE are building with this sort of closed ecosystem of this follow-up mechanism. Let's just start there. What are your thoughts on that? And like, how do you see that impacting our industry with this, maintaining that relationship now with things the consumer wants?
Watching one of your older podcasts, and I think, James, you had said all Zillow has to do is follow up with the people that, agents forgot to follow up with. I think it's actually much more insidious than that. So if you think about an agent, like the training we give agents is you should, for agents who do sphere selling well, we tell them you should be in front of everyone in your sphere every 10 days, right? So what that actually means is even for the best sphere sellers, Zillow just has to have a 5-day window in which they can identify that person as wanting to buy and sell them back to you or to someone else before you ever get around to recognizing they're ready to. So Zillow has this inherent 5-day window in their model. So that's like a related piece here is that you how do you get yourself out of this cycle of having to buy leads from Zillow? Because they are going to monopolize that. They're going to get really good at figuring out within that 5-day window who is going to be your clients.
But how does that square? Sorry to interrupt, Dan, but a quick question, because you talked about the depth of relationship having resonance over years, right? So what's more important, being timely in that 5-day window or the depth of the relationship, which will make you remember me a lot longer? Or how do those two things wrestle?
I think this is where you get into the balance between that. And that's like even the best agent has the 5 days, but they have a chance to win them at that point.
Right.
it's the bad agents who never contact them, or those are the ones who are going to lose it to the Zillows of the world.
Yeah, great.
But at least if you're within 5 days, you've got a chance of it.
Right.
But Zillow also has a chance at that point, and so there's a little bit of opportunity there. Depends on who they send it to and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But there is, it is this 5-day window for success that we have.
And 5-day window from what? Exactly.
I was just saying, if the average agent reaches out to everyone in their sphere every 10 days, on average, people are 5 days away from being reached out.
Gotcha. Because you hit them with the frequency. Now, someone just drove their car into a ditch because they did the math, 365 days. That means he's saying I should contact him 36 times a year. And they're like, this guy's crazy. I don't want to do this anymore.
It's ironic. Those are the same numbers we just had on multiple podcasts.
Yep. So for that listener who's like, 36 is too much, it's going to be annoying, I don't want to bother them. Dan, you got to understand, like, it's just too much. I'm not a salesperson. I'm a service person, Dan. I can't hit them every 10 days. It's icky. What do you say?
Well, if you hit them with the same thing every 10 days, it will be icky. Like, it's about rotating your reach out. And so like every month it's a phone call. Every 2 weeks, it's a text message, and you have to actually have something meaningful to say there.
Right. It also can just be, "Hi, how are you? I know your kid's having a birthday today. I just wanted to say happy birthday."
Right. And so the more that you have on that, the better you do on the more intel you have on the person, the more you can do that kind of personal.
Well, talk to me about this long tail part. I want to kind of bring this back. So, Rocket, I've been on this. Keith and I have argued about it. We're not going to debate that today, but just what I do know is people are focused on touch points over the 8 to 13 years people own a property. They're focused on how to maintain that relationship. So CRM, in my mind, for the longest time has done well on this. A client who wants to buy in the next 6 months, like it's just top funnel, but this long tail is this next evolution. What's fascinating about what you're telling me and just how you're using AI and all of this data is are those touch points going to get so good with AI, like identifying where somebody is at a certain decision-making process that the system's going to give the right content at the right moment in front of that customer? Is that a vision of future where we're headed?
I think there's a combination of pieces, right? One part of it is identifying what they care about at this moment. And I think that is the core role for AI in a lot of this, is that identification based on volumes of data. What does this person care about at this time? The second question is all right, how do we reach out to them about that? How do we get them that? And I think that's where agents have the advantage of the personal relationships versus the rockets, which is just going to be nurture spam. Right. And so if you couple those two things together, I think you can beat the rockets and the Redfins by coupling the data to figure out what matters with the personal outreach.
With the personal.
Yeah.
Do you think there's going to be... Sorry.
Go ahead.
One last
No.
question. I'm sorry.
No, good. That's all right.
Do you think there's this world coming where a lot of these conversations are going to be done, meaning like my voice,
everyone's
from
bots
AIs?
are just be talking to each other?
You know exactly where I was going with this.
My bot's talking to your bot. Yeah.
Well, so I have this,
voice actually.
I have this idea that if you could have a bot that actually reaches out to like your medical provider or someone and actually negotiates their phone tree and figures out it. Actually, your bot needs to say operator, because there's new laws coming through that you have to have a human operator onshore in the US. So you can actually have your bot be smart enough to get to a human and have your bot talk to a human. So you can actually win as the consumer on the front end of this.
Yeah.
I
wrote something down that you said. No, I'm taking this one. Yeah.
Go ahead. Go. Sorry.
Identifying what's important to them in the moment. Like I wrote that down because if you want me to put what I want a CRM to do in a sentence, that's what it is. And the key to that is in the moment, because it may have nothing to do with the house, right? Like it's about the human first and then the house second. And so identifying what would be, I don't know, maybe they somehow your lurking and working software tells them that they had a baby, right? Well, that would be a different conversation than right? Like I text that says, "Hey, congrats," right? Versus, so it's thinking about what's important to them in the moment, regardless, like taking the real estate lens off and just put the human lens over it.
Right. It's the human lens is the thing that will differentiate.
Yeah. Yeah. And then when we do that, we kick the shit out of Rocket or whoever else decides they want to try to jump in there, because they're going to send their version of, spring forward, fall back, change your clocks, whatever, right?
But you do need all that data, right?
Right.
And so you won't get away with saying, oh, Rocket can own the mortgage business and all of that stuff, and we'll just figure it out magically, right?
Yeah, if we do our job.
Yeah.
Do you think we're going to end up in a spot, though, like legislatively or whatever, where getting access to this information is going to become harder and harder due to privacy laws? Like, is the theme the opposite way right now in government? Like, where, I mean, I'm thinking about what came to my mind was there's litigation going on in the industry they're using something called SEPA, and this is again ambulance chasing lawyers that do this, but they are suing people. They took the same this law that was passed in like 1967, and they've applied it now to the web, where if you have a tracking device and code in your browser, it's wiretapping, and they're filing suits against everybody on this shit. So I ask because are we in a world where this is going to be harder to have that data to make those systems that accurate? Am I off?
It's going to be harder to buy that data. It's not going to be hard. So like if you think of the way Meta works, they don't have to buy data from anyone. They know literally everything about everyone, and they've never had to buy data.
Right.
And so the question is, how do you get your hands on this kind of first party data about people? Because when you have first party data, that tends to be the data that is not going to get cut off. It's the cross-selling of data across people that's going to get cut off first.
Interesting. I have a follow-up on this. Like, is there a world, I think of, like, it's the only one that comes to mind, so I'm not picking them out specifically, but you've got these platforms like homeowner.ai. And I think there's like Move Concierge, there's a bunch of them where it's this follow-up mechanism about the property, and you're like, you've got your lender in there, et cetera. So it's not CRM, but it's based upon, it's notifying the customer that they need to get their dryer vent cleaned and that the air filters need to be changed out. You got to get your air conditioner serviced. Like, it's very stuff that a homeowner would want to know. Do you see like that kind of product and your product marrying in the future, where that becomes part of that follow-up mechanism over that 8 to 13 years?
Yes and no. I'd say it doesn't create a human opportunity for a human touch, right? So you could say, like, the agent's going to reach out and say, hey, you should update your dryer vent. Like, I don't know if that's going to add much value, but it does create some opportunity to start conversations, or at least, figure out things. And so I think it's valuable, but it's not sufficient to be able to drive the real conversations we need.
Because I would really like the reminder to get my dryer vents cleaned.
Can I give you a different version of that, which is, I now know a lot about the house. There's a series of things that should be updated, maybe quarterly, right? Whatever. And instead of like, hey, Dan, your dryer vent should be changed, right? Because like, yay, right? But hey, Dan, here's the list of things that probably should have been done in the last 30 days and are going to need to be done in the next 30. I have a handyman that I've negotiated a 10% discount that can swing by the house and take care of that. If you're interested, just let me know. Love you, smooches.
I think that's relevant.
So yeah, but let me take that one step further.
Take it 2 steps. Let's get rich. Like, yeah, come on.
Imagine you could say, hey, you've got a lot of things due on your house. Have you considered it might be less expensive to move?
And look at this genius.
Let someone else have that problem instead of yourself.
Yeah.
So there are opportunities in there to drive it to your core business too.
To nudge it, right? Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. So is that the future? The tailored communication that, rather than some static it's the 15th of the month and Valentine's Day was on the 14th. So you send out an email that says, I love my clients, right? Blech, gross, very low value.
Or that you get.
Yeah. Or there's some trigger about your specific home or life event. And now I'm reaching out to you about something that's topical. And if I had 100 people in my database, in theory, 100 different emails would go out because every person is different and every property is different.
And they're not all going to go out at the same time because it's not always an opportunity.
Because it's not based off of a calendar. It's based off of life events and property events. Right. So is that what you built?
Well, we haven't done the property event part of it.
Okay. So you're using the person first.
We're mostly on the person side of it.
Which is harder, easier? Which one's harder?
Person.
I would think.
It's hard that where you get into the hard stuff on the homeowner side is no one wants to enter the serial numbers of their appliances
and stuff. Sure. That's going to come from inspection reports eventually, but we'll get there.
Or my handyman.
I want to ask this, I'm going to take it off the tech for a second, but what do you think are some of the biggest behavioral changes agents need to do in this process? I want to tie it back to this conversation. Like it sounds so like duh, like in my brain, I'm like, this just makes sense. But yet, like, I guess I'll follow up with like, what percentage of your customers like actually use the thing to the degree they should? And you don't have to give me the number. I'm not trying to put you on the spot. My point was just more of like,
round up, Dan, round up. Make me feel better.
The ones that make me go, why do you want to do that? Are agents who say, I want to automate all my birthday reminders to my clients. It's like, that is the single worst, dumbest thing you could possibly do. This is a great opportunity to put is something personal, meaningful to them and have a conversation. Mm-hmm. And so that's the one that just like gets
where
me.
do you see that sort of right? Because automation is powerful though, because it actually happens, right? Yeah. So when should it be automated and when should it not?
So automation, I don't think it's a bright line between yes and no. You can have so I mean, like it's like paper pushing stuff that's fully automated, right? Mm-hmm. But you can also have this intermediate side, which is like, here's the starting point. Mm-hmm. Now you put that personal touch on it. And so instead of it's one or the other, it's this optimal middle point is we've given you enough to get started. Now put in the little anecdote about little Jamie.
Right.
There.
So it's James's birthday. I know he drinks tea, not coffee. I know he likes whatever versus whatever. And so here's a text I could send to James. Hit the button to send the text. That's personalized to him.
But let someone actually put even additional personalization because you're not going to figure out everything on an electronic system that's happening. Right. And so you need people to have the veto power over it.
It kind of ties in, and Keith will move us to the last question here, but it ties into a pod we did. I'm going to keep coming back to it the rest of this year. I guarantee it. We had this podcast with this guy, Charlie Wills, and he just, all he does is nurture his top 100 people. Mm-hmm. That's it. He literally just has 100 people in his sphere that are his top 100 people. And his entire business strategy is just 52 touch points. I wanted to say it was around 50
once a week.
A year.
Yeah, once a week.
In some way, shape, or form. Everyone's like, oh my God, it's not as easy.
Text,
he's just
email,
saying a text,
call,
or he's calling, email,
postcard,
whatever, some piece of information, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And does 33 transactions and 22 million in volume with just doing that 100 people. That's it. No, there's anything else. No buying leads. And it's fascinating to me because I'm going to tie this. You're giving a system that's like, just do this stuff, and we're going to give you the data to even talk about, and like just follow a path of this very basically, and you can just do more business. And it's not we overcomplicate this stuff so much when we just, to your point, which I love what you just said, is like a big computer guys. You're like, actually, it's not sending an email. It's like, don't send out that in an email. Like, please pick up the phone and call your damn customer. Like,
Here's a really interesting one though, which is we all love to give. Can you believe it's been a year? Can you believe it's been 2 years, 3 years? One of the top producers who uses Cloze, he said, "I'm turning that off. On every year, I want to say, can you believe it's been a year since you bought your home?" And he gets people always go, no, it hasn't been. It's been 3 years. And it like works amazing for him.
So sort of faux mistakes to stimulate a conversation.
That is funny.
It is funny. That is funny.
All right, Keith, take us home.
All right, this is what we end every podcast with. So you're probably very prepared for this question. So other than buy Cloze so I can sell more houses, if you were an agent or a brokerage, what's the one thing you'd implement today to help your business?
I think I'd probably answer those differently for agents or brokerages.
Yeah, fair. Pick one then. Don't worry about it. Yeah.
From a brokerage standpoint, even for agents, you need to think about what is your unique differentiator and what is going to be your sustainable differentiator versus the Rockets and the Redfins and everyone else out there from the brokerage side, right?
Yeah.
And so as a brokerage, how are you going to compete in this world where those guys are using the public transactional data? And this is the relationship data. That's what relationships are, the one thing that brokerages have that Rocket and
defensible space
never have.
Yeah.
And so it's think about how you can do more with your relationships, whether it's a brokerage, whether it's an agent, figure that out because that will be your sustainable differentiator.
Really smart.
I love that, Dan. It's a good reminder, and there's a theme we're getting from all of our interviews, and it just keeps coming back to what you said. And I love the fact that you're a tech company that does automated follow up to do the things that agents aren't doing, and you're literally saying like your differentiator is your personal relationship. You've got to bring that in, and I think that's a really important point. But you can't do that without having technology help remind you of the things you need to be doing. So it's a good reminder.
A technologist focused on the human. Who would have thought something like that could even be born and made? So we're glad you're on the planet, Dan Foody. The world needs you, and so does residential real estate, because that is a important distinction that I rarely hear. Yeah,
love it. Appreciate you being here, buddy.
Yeah, great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Congrats on all the success. Yeah, genuinely. So, all right. Well, we'll look forward to having you back in the future, my friend. Keep up the good work.
Yeah, that was fun. Thank you.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Don't make that rookie mistake. Subscribe now. Be the coolest person at the water cooler. Wait a minute. Do we even have water coolers anymore? Who wrote this?